Nostalgia Street invites you on a retro ride that's more than just a trip down memory lane.
Uncover life lessons and personal growth stories that stem from our collective past.
So you can live a richer, more connected life today.
Whether you're a 90s kid, an 80s teen, or simply young at heart, you'll find something to relate to in each episode.
Now, here are your hosts, Vince and Jeff.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Nostalgia Street. And with me is my co-host, Vince. I'm Jeff.
What was that? Nostalgia Street?
I was trying to be clever. I guess it didn't work out very well.
As y'all can tell, we have a new set today. This is the behind the scenes of Nostalgia Street.
Yeah, for the first time, you get to see the studio space that we always talk about here at Forefront Studios. Oh my gosh, that's our sponsor.
Yeah, what do they do?
Well, I hear they make amazing podcasts and corporate videos.
They really help corporations build videos that help grow their brand.
And I hear they help you stutter too.
Yeah, they got teleprompters.
I just realized real quick here, folks, behind the scene, we have a timer right
keep us honest.
There we go. That's going to keep us honest to make sure we don't talk any more than we usually do. So our special episode today, we received so much email about our look back in time.
We even got a letter.
Yeah, we got a letter.
Yeah,
from my mom.
They were really worried about the Doomba Roomba. So they sent a snail mail.
It did count. We actually did get an email. Thank God.
Yeah.
But no, in all honesty, we got tons. We got tons of comments. That was fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wink. But anyway, so here's what we're going to do on today's episode. Because we're in a different setting, we've got a little bit of a different background here. We're going to go totally off the rails. And so instead of looking backward, we're actually looking forward and then looking backward. So let me make that more clear. We have right here with us a list of events that ChatGPT generated to help us remember some of these items or these events or these breakups or these movies. And what we're going to discuss is what would the world be like if the items from our nostalgic past had not occurred? What might that look like?
And if you're
comfortable here,
if you're a younger millennial or a Gen Z or a Zoomer, whatever you guys call yourselves nowadays, you may not even know what half of these are.
That's true. That's true. So let's kick it off. Some of these are kind of boring. I hate to say that, but let's just go through a couple of these that are kind of interesting. If we go way back, so the first thing that ChatGPT gave us is what would have happened if the moon landing had never occurred in 1969. And this is controversial because
we know the moon landing maybe didn't happen.
Yeah, because if you do look at some clips of the moon and the astronauts walking around, one of the biggest telltale signs that it may not have happened is the angle of the lights.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking around about this. You look at some of the pictures and you can tell by the shadows and the angles that usually once you have lighting up, there's consistent shadows, and
there's
there wasn't.
There's no wind in space, so how's the flag fluttering?
That's right.
It was all done on MTV. MTV prevented the Cold War from escalating by faking the moon landing.
I think for that flag, I think they sprayed it down with Aquanet, but yeah, I swear to God, it moved around a little bit. So if the moon hadn't landed,
okay, that's a whole different scenario.
If we hadn't landed on the moon. Have you seen that show on Apple TV?
For all good of all mankind?
Yeah. So that
it might be like that.
Well, but I mean, in a kind of way, that one, I mean, they landed on the moon. They actually went to Mars and landed on Mars and everything like that. But that alternate reality of what might have looked like, I mean, if we played out, the space race may have lasted longer than it actually did. Because I think once we got to the moon.
So you're saying that I could have been born in space if we had continued the space race?
I think that's fair.
Could have been a space baby.
You could have been a space baby.
So viewers, let us know. Do you think the moon landing was real? Do you think it was faked? What would have happened if the moon landing did not exist?
And if you were born in space, maybe dogs could be raised in space, and then they wouldn't have to get space rabies shots.
Space rabies are so deadly.
You know what? Here's something else. If we borrow from my favorite movie, Aliens, in space, no one can hear you scream. So if you were born in space, nobody could hear your little baby scream. They'd spank your little butt, and they could never hear you.
Would you be a space mute then, or a space deaf?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
These are the random topics that really are important for our show today. The Chernobyl disaster in 1986. If this is chat, if this nuclear disaster had been averted, it might have led to a more positive view of nuclear power, potentially affecting today's energy sources and environmental policies. I think it was probably good. Let me preface this. I'm not saying it was good.
Good came from it.
Yeah,
It was a cautionary tale.
I think good came out of it, but I think that a lot of people might agree that nuclear power, although it has some yikes, some scary things, it's a very clean way of generating energy.
But the Soviet Union wasn't necessarily doing it the most safe way.
True.
It's like that Jurassic Park movie when, what's his name? Jeff Goldblum's character. It's like, we spent so much time trying to figure out how we could do it, but we never figured out if we should do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. I butchered it.
But I mean, so Chernobyl in Russia, you know, I think even this conflict in Ukraine, we're learning that Russia is not the end-all be-all that we thought they were. And Chernobyl helped prove that. I saw the movie. There was a really good documentary / real-life movie. Was it on HBO? Called Chernobyl?
Yeah, there's a whole series now.
Oh my God, that was really good. I should go back and watch that.
Today's kids get to enjoy Chernobyl via the series or video games.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about becoming a radioactive zombie.
All right, so here's one I think is really interesting. Star Wars in 1977, I would have been 9 at the time, but if Star Wars had not been released, holy crap, think of all of the other movies, not just the Star Wars movies, but all of the other movies that might not have come out because of that.
I think of Ronald Reagan and his Star Wars defense program. Like, what would he have called it instead? It would have been like
Star Trek defense.
Space lasers.
No, Star Trek. Star Trek would have still been around.
Oh, I guess that's true.
They came from the TVs, but all the characters that we would know, there would be no more posters that say "do or do not," or "do or do not." There is no try from Yoda. All of that would be
Just
gone.
imagine a world without Baby Yoda merch. Wow.
Yeah, no Mandal. Oh, dude, here, close your ears, buddy. There'd be no Mandalorian. There'd be no controversy now of this new director for Star Wars who says she likes to make men feel uncomfortable.
Well, and George Lucas would just be a regular peasant like us.
Yeah, that's sad. Let's see, what else would we have missed out on? Or things that, if they didn't happen, what would they look like? There's some stuff on here that's kind of stupid to me. They talk about the divorce of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. I gotta be honest.
She totally killed him. She totally killed him.
But I mean, even if they hadn't broken up or if he hadn't died, well, his death was something. But their divorce, I don't think that even.
I mean, why are divorce and breakups even a section on this?
Because I put them in.
Okay.
Divorces and breakups. So what would have happened? So this is actually on here twice. What would have happened if the Beatles had never broken up? Now, I'm not a big Beatles fan. I know tons of people are, my wife. But if they hadn't broken up, if Yoko Ono had not broken them up, they could have continued on tour like the Rolling Stones. They could have totally dominated and evolved if they hadn't smoked any more drugs than they.
So I heard stories where apparently sometimes they do these jam sessions and Yoko will be there and they would just unplug her mic so they could keep going.
I don't doubt that. But yeah, if the Beatles had continued,
so this
might they have overshadowed?
This is telling me that the ChatGPT is not a great predictor of the future because a lot of these are just saying it would change if blank did not happen or blank happened. It would change the trajectory of blank. It's like every other one. It says it would change the trajectory of fantasy and entertainment, change the trajectory of pop music.
It's not a predictor, but that's for us to do. We're the predictors here.
All right.
One breakup that's on here was what would have happened if Wham had not broken up. And this is going to sound kind of weird because you don't know this about me, I don't think anyway.
Okay.
I am a big George Michael's fan. His lyrics in some of his songs are out of this world. He's a genius. Vince isn't listening to me anymore. He's looking ahead.
No, I'm just thinking.
I want to talk about George Michael's, damn it.
Well, I'm just saying one Michael, not Michael's.
George Michael.
Yeah.
He's Michael's.
So you're saying that if Wham stayed together, we would not have George Michael's sexy sax song? Do 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 do
Exactly.
do. See, so that needs to happen.
We might not have. So I'm kind of glad that they did break up because I don't know that Andrew. What was his last name?
Is he even? He's not even worth mentioning on this. It just says George Michael.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, how about
Yeah, what's
what
well,
if
so they talk about the divorce of Princess Diana and now King Charles. I think I wish that she had not had the accident that she had. She made quite a statement as the princess, but then when they broke up, she started wearing these kind of not revealing, but kind of sexier clothing. I think she could have really shaken things up in England if she would have stayed. I can't remember. I guess did they actually? Yeah, I guess they did get divorced, right?
I know
I don't
nothing
remember that.
about the
I know
royalty.
you weren't born.
Know that, and
All
we're
right.
in
Well,
America.
I'm doing all the. What's your favorite?
So the only there are very many few things on this list that actually happened after I was born. One of them being the release of, let's see, actually the only thing on this list that happened after I was born was the first Harry Potter book in 1997.
So without Harry Potter, where would we be?
Let's see, without Harry Potter, we wouldn't have Quidditch, which is a nationally beloved sport on college campuses, where you can see college kids running around with brooms between their legs.
I've never seen that.
You missed out because you didn't have Quidditch during your time. Great sport.
I've never seen. I've heard of people doing it, but
Yeah, you never been quaffled?
no. Quaffled.
No, this list it's a very
We should let's dwell on Harry. Harry deserves a little dwelling. If we
see.
didn't have
If we didn't have
Harry
Potter,
around,
oh, we lost something.
oh, we lost a light.
Oh well, we're doing it live. If Harry Potter wasn't around, they would not have banned witchcraft in my school.
Did they?
Yeah, we couldn't read Harry Potter because it promoted witchcraft. Shout out Catholic schools.
Okay.
And
now I remember during the timetable, I was a consultant at the time. I was on an airport or on an airplane every other Sunday and Thursday. And the amount of people I remember back then, adults that read Harry Potter, it was everywhere. And I remember going, maybe I should pick up that book as well. I did read the first one, and then the movies came out, I think, shortly after. But that would have made a few people have to sleep more often or choose a different book.
mm-hmm.
But have you seen that SNL of Hermione, played by Lindsay Lohan?
No, I haven't seen that one.
You should look that up.
Well, speaking of that, SNL. What if SNL was never a thing?
Yeah, because that brought comedy
To the masses.
to the masses for sure.
If anything,
And think of all the people that we would be without.
hot
Like,
take
that's
here.
a long
Hot take here. SNL created the original meme. Because people would watch SNL skits and they'd repeat them to their friends and family. Just like how we make fun of memes now that show up on the internet.
Quick trivia. SNL was also the first show where the F-bomb was actually said on live TV. It was spoken by Charlie Rocket, who I met in California in the latter part of the 90s. In case you don't know who Charlie Rocket is, he was the bad army guy in Dances with Wolves. So to our massive audience in South Dakota who know that Dances with Wolves was filmed here, Charlie Rocket, actor of Dances with Wolves and also actor on SNL, said the first F-bomb. And I talked to him.
You know his cousin Jimmy Missile, right?
Jimmy Missile. Mickey Missile. Oh, boy.
So was SNL back in those days, did they actually film on Saturday night? Was it actually live on
I don't
Saturday? Because like nowadays it's Friday night morning. It's like Friday morning.
But like,
or Friday afternoon.
let's list off quickly, if we can, how many people came from SNL that we would, like if it never existed at all, like even right now.
Oh,
But if we start way, way back when, we wouldn't have Eddie Murphy.
yeah.
We wouldn't have, who's that guy that's got the really annoying voice?
That-
You know.
Herbie? What's his name?
Anyway, we'll skip it.
Pee Wee Herman?
No, Pee Wee Herman didn't come from SNL.
Okay.
I don't think so. But Phil Hartman
Okay.
was there. Obviously, Sandler, Farley. Chris Rock.
Okay.
Jimmy, I mean, we go real quickly here. Jimmy Fallon
Go, yeah.
came from there. Tina Fey, Step Brothers dude.
Welcome to another episode of Vince Doesn't Know Celebrity Names.
You know these.
We've got about 30 seconds left, so.
No, we do not.
It's at 15 minutes on the card.
No, 5-0. We have
50.
We have time for a 50-minute episode.
You guys have another 35 minutes of this.
No wonder you're looking through this so quickly. No, what's the guy from Step Brothers?
I don't know what his name is. I just know that he plays the Johnny Cash mockumentary.
Well, that's the other guy.
Oh,
I'm talking about the guy that he was the cheerleader in the cheerleader skit with Molly Shannon. He's only been in every other comic. He did a skit with on the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
And I forget her name too. Okay, well, that guy. Who would be without that guy?
Yeah, where would we be without that guy? That guy.
John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, they came from SNL. I think
Again,
Aykroyd.
I know people based off their roles, not by their names, unfortunately.
All right, let's try to
Okay,
go more current here.
What about like just the whole idea of like MTV was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it was part of my culture growing up in the 80s for sure. Everybody my age watched MTV unless they had a mother like me who wasn't keen on us watching it because it was music of the devil sometimes. Unless it was Lionel Richie, and then it was okay to watch. My mom was a big Lionel
Yeah,
Richie
wasn't MTV one of the first channels that just had like 24-hour programming of some sort?
Yeah.
It was just all music.
I mean, that was the sad part back then. Yeah, it was music 24/7, and I do like some of the shows that came out of it, like Real World and others. But for some reason, then the whole genre of like music videos just kind of.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're still out there. You look at MTV.
I think the only music videos
YouTube.
we hear about today are the guys who want to pay us $500 and point guns at us. No, thank you.
No, but like you go to YouTube. I mean, some of the most viewed videos of all time are music videos. Is it Post Malone or is it Despacito or one of those? They're billions
Ooh.
of views.
So if you would like to see Jeff and I make a music video, please subscribe to our show.
Please subscribe. We won't do it, but we'll tell you that we did it. Okay, what else? So this is kind of interesting. Jurassic Park, 1993. With its groundbreaking use of CGI, this film's absence might have delayed the widespread adoption of CGI technology in movies. Now, I remember...
Hey, that's me, yeah.
I remember being at the theater in Chicago when the
Brontosaurus?
when they were all right outside that pen where the T-Rex is missing, and then they're like, "Wait, did you feel that?" And you see the cup and the water's moving in it. That theater that I was in was like, wow. But yeah, think about that. The first time that you saw the Brontosaurus in that movie, I mean, CGI has gotten a lot better. But even back then, you were like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, how do they do that?
Well, I remember like getting the VHS, renting the VHS. My dad watched it, and he saw the Brontosaurus, and he was like, whoa.
Yeah.
He was like, did they build that? Like, how they do it? I was like, Dad, I think it's all
It was
computers.
so lifelike. So lifelike. And then following behind that, oh, yeah, it's 2 years. So this is unique. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I was also in Chicago, oddly enough, when I saw that movie. And that was one of the first CGIs where you had that morphine metal. Do you remember the cop?
The liquidy
Yeah, the
stuff.
liquidy dude.
Yeah. It was
Which
great.
was also in The Abyss, also a movie by James Cameron. He does reuse some of his
I haven't
technology.
seen that yet, but speaking of that, how was Chicago in the 90s?
It wasn't bad. I remember the phrase that people that I worked with a lot said, "You better do this or you better do that, or I will rip your face off." And
Okay.
the first time I heard it, I was kind of like, "Whoa, you guys are really violent." Oh no, I'm just joking. That's just a, what do you call it? Colloquialism.
They got
Rip your face off. That was big in Chicago.
Oh,
Now it's big in Philadelphia till
Well, in the 2010s, in the 2010s in Chicago was we'll break your knees. So I don't know if rip your face off or break your knees. I don't know which one is.
I'll take a broken knee for 20, please.
We'll take
My
that.
face. Let's see. What else is on here that would have been interesting without?
No video games.
Well, yeah, it talks about
The crash of the video games, but I mean, technically, like,
it's almost like it was a coup. Crash of the video games in 1983.
I think that's like when you had like 17,000 video game companies, like your ColecoVision and all the video games that exist on our arcade machine in our office that no longer exist in real life.
Yeah, I don't remember it really crashing. I thought it just kept growing, but it did slow up.
Like Atari is no longer really a thing.
Yeah, it did slow up. I thought it was past 83. We should ask Siri or Alexa, when was Pac-Man?
Yeah, we need a video game.
Hey Siri, when was Pac-Man around? 1980. Okay.
So if you're a video game expert, we would like to recruit you for our show.
Yeah, we'd
for a
love to have
future
you
episode.
on. Totally.
You could even play us in a game.
A video game expert.
Mm-hmm.
We need a resume too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, aside from this list, if we think about our own world, our city here in Sioux Falls, if something didn't happen, that did happen, what would that look like? And I mean, little tribute, shout out to Joe Batchelor. I think his dad was in charge of the Zip feed mill. That came down. Oh, that came down like in the
2010?
2000s. Yeah,
2010.
2010. So what would have happened if that never came down, or if it was still up? And
Well, we wouldn't have Sharapaville.
the Zip feed mill was more.
No, that's Sharap. Zip feed mill became Sharapa. 1 of 10, however many they've planned.
I thought the feed mill was.
No, but
I gotta look that up. Where was the feed mill? I don't.
it's it's around that area of Sharapa, that place, that land, because that land they bought. Because we were looking this up when we were doing that research the other day.
I think it's closer to where the Sioux Steel District is.
Mm,
Because I remember we watched it, and then a bus literally stopped right in front of us as the feed mill was coming down. And then once the bus went by, then we saw the leaning tower of Zip.
the Leaning Tower of Zip. That's a T-shirt.
It was just hanging
That's a
there.
T-shirt. Let's see other things in Sioux Falls. Speaking of that, I mean, if we going way, way, way back when the folks had the choice of, do you guys, Sioux Falls, do you want the state pen or do you want the University of South Dakota? Which would you like? And obviously, we picked the state pen.
Was there a choice?
There was a choice.
No.
They were deciding where they wanted to put USD, and it was a
What?
choice of up on the hill in Sioux Falls, but Sioux Falls couldn't have the university and the pen. We picked the pen because we thought it'd be more money for us. Imagine
That's
if
insane.
yeah, imagine if USD was there.
How would a penitentiary generate more money? People coming to visit?
Well, back then they didn't believe in the power of education, obviously.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, this town would have been totally. I grew up in a college town. I would have loved. I mean, we still have colleges here. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, you're inviting the criminal element. I mean, yes, they're behind bars.
Well, because the penitentiary is there, they also that invited this meat packing plant to be there. Because if you had a university on that hill, you would never have a meat packing plant below it.
So that's where they were going to put the university in place of where the penitentiary is?
Yep.
Well, where would they have grown? In what direction? Would they have gone down
Maybe
the
down the hill.
Main?
Maybe down the hill.
That would have been interesting.
Or maybe encroaching upon Falls Park a bit just to make it part of the university. That'd be really cool.
We need to have a Sioux Falls historian on. To...
We do know a local podcaster who does that, so maybe we could bring her on.
All right, who is it?
Local Lou podcast.
Who?
The Local Lou podcast.
Local Lou?
Yeah, we saw her at Startup Pitch Night.
Okay.
She
Well,
does.
Local Lou, if you're watching,
We need you.
hit us up. We want to hear that.
She knows all the little historical factoid signs and things like that.
All right.
But yeah, isn't that crazy? We could have
Yeah.
actually had like a really nice development there.
So we as a general rule, we don't like to talk about politics because it's pretty divisive. People take sides pretty quickly, and we're not here to start fights or whatever. However,
At least fights that we will lose.
yeah. However, if if a different president would have taken office at some point in our recent history, think about how that may have shaped things differently.
If Al Gore had won in 2000, because he invented the internet apparently, just imagine where we'd be now.
I've heard. Well, what if, so here's a really good one, because my dad was a massive conspiracy theorist over Kennedy, and it continues to evolve. But what if he had survived his assassination?
Well, we know what happens. You've seen that series on Hulu by Stephen King with James Franco.
1963.
Yeah, 17 something 63. Yeah.
17.
Well, no, it's
not the colonial period, dude.
It's the date, like 1760, whatever, 1960.
I should know that. December 4th, 1963.
Yeah. So,
hey, when was Kennedy assassinated? November 22nd, 1963. I was by 2 weeks.
It's 11/22/63 is what the actual title of it is. So if Kennedy wasn't assassinated, then
think about all the conspiracy theories that would just go away, because he not only would he secure our understanding of how many times was he actually shot, but all those other theories.
But think of the new conspiracy theories, like the Vatican controls America. Because that was a very big thought they had back then.
That's it.
I would know because I was there.
But the war in Vietnam would have never occurred, I don't think, if Kennedy would have held on, because he wouldn't have wanted to get into a war.
No. The problem is the war in Vietnam would have happened regardless, because Kennedy told the Vietnamese he didn't want to help them.
Was it Kennedy?
So the Ho Chi Minh, or as we call him, Uncle Ho, he wrote to Kennedy and said, Kennedy, we would like to have a democracy, a country like the United States. We really want your help. Kennedy's like, I can't do that. The French are our allies. We have to support the French colonials, the French colonial government.
Yeah.
So the best he could do was send them a couple military advisors to fight the war against the French.
Like LBJ, he escalated that from my history books. I don't know.
And then what happened was
Kennedy would have.
Uncle Ho went to the Soviets and was like, hey, Kennedy doesn't like us. Can you teach us communism instead? And then Vietnam War eventually escalates with LBJ and all that. But Kennedy had the opportunity to help.
Well, it's interesting. Like, if he would have helped or if he wouldn't have helped, and then Vietnam would become communist, would that have...
Well, it is communist.
Caused, yeah. So what they wanted to happen would have happened, and Kennedy would have just maybe said, all right, you guys do your thing. We're not the world's police.
Well, I mean, no Vietnam War, no me. Just saying. That's a pretty selfish one right there, but it's true.
There was never a Vietnam War. Snap, Vince is gone. Boom.
Sorry, guys. Maybe the world's better off.
But yeah, so what would be if another president had not? I mean, obviously, if Nixon had not, then we wouldn't have had Watergate.
Or what if, there's one on here, it's got the Berlin Wall. What if the Berlin Wall never fell and the Soviet Union was still around?
Well, I don't think it was about communism, was it?
Yeah.
I'm talking about things I'm not real clear about, but I know it was going to impact our global economy. But
well, the fall of the Berlin Wall is the significant end of the Soviet Union. When what's his name? Who was president?
Either I'm going to sound like an idiot or you're going to sound like an idiot, because I'm going to say, well, in Germany, did you have communism on one side?
Yes, you did. One side was run after World War II.
I'm so sheltered.
Germany was split into West Germany and East Germany.
Yeah.
The Allies took one side. The Soviets managed the other side. So they built the wall, and that was the beginning of the Iron Curtain.
Communism?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought maybe,
well, there's that famous line from who was president in that time. He said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall."
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now I have some context there, but yeah, for a while there.
I wasn't even alive then, guys. And I know this.
All right, what's another president that, if they had not been around, what that might have looked like? And Jimmy Carter, I think he's still alive. He suffered so much. His wife has died. He still spends his time building houses for Habitat for Humanity. But he was tortured mentally by the Iranians.
Oh yeah, the crisis,
Because
right?
they had those terrorists and they like just kept on hanging on to them. And then when Reagan took office, they're like, oh crap, he's gonna come for us. And then they released the hostages. I forget how many days those hostages were there. If it was 74 days.
Is that part of the plot of the movie Argo or whatever that was, or?
Maybe.
Because that's about like a news team or something stuck there too with those hostages.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I don't know.
I've seen the movie. It's been a while though.
I played the 5th there because before my time.
But if we came forward then, without Carter, who knows?
How about we talk about all the times people thought the world was going to end? Like 2000,
Y2K.
Y2K,
Yeah.
2012 with the Mayans.
Yeah. What would have happened without the Y2K bug? But there never was a Y2K bug, right? Or maybe there was, but we fixed it in time.
Or just like the idea, like who started that rumor? Like that caused some mass panic.
It did. What about celebrities or musicians who started their own little movement or were part of something? Does anything come to mind off the top of your head?
I think of,
Like in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
well, there's that whole bit with Live Aid
Yeah.
that they
Well,
put
Bono.
Yeah, Bono.
I forget the name of the guy that started Live Aid, but it was We Are the World.
Yep.
Yeah, We Are the World and Live Aid, then Farm Aid.
Then there's a whole Red program. I think Bono was part of that too.
Yep, he was.
A lot of social activism happening back then.
I was
back
almost
those
going to
days.
pull one on you and say we had Live Aid, Farm Aid, and Band Aid, but
Johnson & Johnson.
what would have happened if one of the Johnson brothers had died and it would just be Johnson?
I actually think it's Johnson.
No.
I think so.
This is one of those Mandela effects.
This is one of those where like
It's always Johnson.
we need a third Johnson.
All right, you have to look that up.
Yeah, so like a lot of technology we have is unfortunately thanks to the development of various weapons and military technology and space racing to military technology. So you take away any of those, and we wouldn't have things like microwaves
Yeah.
or Hot Pockets.
Or Hot Pockets, yeah. Tetris, have you seen that?
Oh yeah, that's a whole
Apple
other debacle,
TV?
is it?
Yeah. For anybody who hasn't seen that show, Tetris on Apple TV, it shows how Tetris came to be, and it was developed by a Soviet. So that explains why when you see the intros and stuff like that, it looks like Russian buildings. It's actually a Russian dealio. And anyway, it was so popular within the Russian government because people could play it on their computers, although it didn't look like it does now, that I think they either had to ban it or it caused widespread challenge within the government because so many people were playing it, almost like people do on their phones now.
So Tetris ended the Cold War.
Possibly.
You know, I feel like this is basically an alternative history episode.
Yeah.
What's that one series, Man in the High Castle or whatever?
Yeah.
Where if we had lost World War II.
That's what it is. So what if Indiana Jones didn't come from Indiana?
Whoa.
What if he'd be Hawaiian Jones?
I was thinking more like Wisconsin Jones.
Well, think about Hawaii Jones. He's a big Samoan guy that weighs about 400 pounds.
So, well, basically you got Moana.
He couldn't do anything.
Well, basically you got The Rock from Moana.
No. I'm talking about like somebody bigger than that.
Okay.
So he whips out the whip and tries to swing.
So
and he weighs down the whip and he crashes.
What's his name? Israel, the
Yeah.
over the rainbow guy as Indiana Jones.
The big boys.
All right.
The big football player boys. So everything like the hat would have to be bigger.
So
Everything had to be
would his sidekick be like a little white boy then?
What was that kid's name?
Short Round. Yep.
Yeah. Short Round.
We're gonna flip it around.
White skinny.
White skinny.
I'd pay money to go see that.
Sheesh.
Wow. Give me some time on that. Raiders. Yeah. Anyway.
So a lot of these movies, let's see. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of current pop culture goes back to the stuff that was in the 80s and 90s. You know, you got your Back to the Future, which did not correctly portray the future. I mean,
True.
we're here in 2024.
Yeah. And what year was that in the future?
2016?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, what are some things that would have impacted your life? You know, you talk about this concept about the butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like if you think about it, if you hadn't turned a corner at the right time, or if you would have gotten a C instead of a B in one chord.
I know exactly that story.
Let's hear it.
If I hadn't taken Tony to 6 a.m. wrestling practice my senior year and not gotten in an accident because some guy in a truck in the middle of the winter decided to speed down a hill, I would not have gotten a concussion. And I probably would have scored higher on my SAT2s, and I would have gone to a different school.
Interesting.
I didn't find out till after the fact that I had a concussion when I took the test the next day, and I scored abysmally. And I was like, okay, well, that's it. We're not getting into Princeton.
Well, this goes a little bit more. I think I talked about this before, but if I had taken a trip to New York 2 days earlier, like I'd planned, I might have died in the World Trade Tower collapse.
Oh, okay, that's a whole different level of me then.
Because we came in there, or we flew there the day that it happened. We flew, my buddy Sam Ryman and I, we flew in to St. Louis.
Wait.
And as we got off the plane, that's when the towers were coming down.
Our sign guy, Sam?
Our sign guy, Sam. Yeah.
Oh, God, shout out, Sam.
Fast
Thanks
sign.
for the sign. Thanks for the sign, Sam.
So if we had not, because we had planned about leaving there earlier, and of course, who back in that time frame would go to New York without visiting the World Trade Towers?
Mhm.
But yeah, so that could have been gone. Yeah, I think there's lots of, if you really think about it, there's probably lots of times if you would have done this instead of that,
Oh,
what
yeah.
the impact would be.
Well, do you think of all the stupid things you do as a kid where it's like 2 degrees to the left and you would have broken more than your arm?
Yeah.
You would have been paralyzed or you've been whatever.
You
Or...
would have, if you would have taken a step or two into the traffic and you could have bit it. If I took back getting engaged when I was in college, my financial status would have been totally different because I went into debt to buy the engagement ring.
Geez, speaking of college, there was this one time I went out with a gal and great evening, come back and they take her home and drop her off at her place and she says, hey, would you like to come up for coffee? And I was like, it's 9 o'clock. Who drinks coffee at 9? And it took me a while to realize, oh, we weren't drinking coffee. So maybe my life would have changed.
Oh my gosh. You dropped her off at 9 o'clock? That's horrible. That's too early, son.
Oh, we had been, yeah. Again, young,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
what does it say? Hindsight is 20, what is it? Everything.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what they
From
say.
two guys who have 25 vision, 20/5, whatever.
Yeah. Well, we've got 4 eyes between us, or 8 eyes. So,
Yeah.
there's other stuff on here that's interesting. The AIDS epidemic, the end of the Cold War, the invention of the internet. We've talked about.
Yeah. How about the stuff that we use in our everyday life, like the cameras back then? I remember my dad had like this giant JVC camcorder deal that is literally like, I don't know, half the size of this guy that he had to crate out with batteries and he'd shoot home movies on it. Like
Michael Jackson's Thriller album. Without this groundbreaking album, the influence on music videos, dance, and global pop music culture would be significantly different.
Yeah, we wouldn't have zombie walks.
Yeah.
Where people dance Thriller.
Speaking of Michael, just last night on Amazon, I finally got to see Air, which is the story of how Nike talked Michael Jordan into signing with them.
Yep.
And pretty interesting because back then,
Endorsement deals weren't that common.
yeah, they weren't that common, but let's see, what year was that? I forget what the year. I guess it was in the 80s.
Yeah, he started with the Bulls in like 87, 88.
Yeah. So this would be like, yeah, maybe that timetable. But at that point in time, Converse had 53% of the market share for basketball shoes. Adidas had like 20, 30, and then Nike had like 17%. And so they had a budget of $250,000 to sign 3 players. And the main guy, who was played by Matt Damon, convinced Phil Knight that instead of signing 3, we need to go after 1, and that's Michael Jordan. And they thought there's no way that we're going to be able to sign him. But the main character, Matt Damon, I forget the guy's name, he was really, really good about just staying persistent about signing him and the differences that it would have on the company. And so it's kind of interesting, because they created the basketball shoe around Michael Jordan. And this guy gave this super good speech. I got to write this down somewhere or find it. He gave this really great, heartfelt speech. So when it came down to it, they proposed the entire $250,000 to Jordan. Well, then they found out that Adidas had done the same thing and offered him this car that he wanted, some Mercedes-Benz. And so his mom called Nike and said, Michael will be happy to sign with you if he gets a percentage of the revenue off of each shoe or item that's sold with his likeness on it. And he was the first athlete to do that. And at the very end of the movie, so they agreed to it, and Phil Knight was kind of wondering what this was going to do to the future. But he laid back on the couch and he goes, well, what can one person do? The best athlete that they had signed, whatever like that, had made them, or they'd grossed like $3 million in shoe sales from this other athlete. Michael Jordan, in his first year, they made $162 million off of the Jordan line of shoes. And then they said that, and I think just recently this dissipated, but that he was making close to $400 million from Nike, just Nike, not even his basketball contracts or any of the endorsements. But Michael was one of those people, and I've seen a lot of his documentaries. He's one of those athletes that really did change the culture because of his amazing abilities as an athlete. Everybody wanted to aspire to be like Mike. But I mean, the Nike, the Air Jordans that did put Nike on the map.
It created that whole sneaker culture.
Yeah.
Think of, we have friends who pay and stand in line thousands of dollars for sneakers. So a lot of them are Jordans.
Yep. And then the number of times that the Bulls won with him, Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman and Steve Kerr, all the Bulls players that we knew only because of how good the Bulls were with him.
Oh, you gotta give shout out to Phil Jackson too.
Phil Jackson.
He wrangled them all in. If you can wrangle those people together and make them win, holy crap. You're a manager of managers.
Yeah. So anyway, that'd be interesting what the world would be like without.
Well, just like the whole idea of percentage deals. I mean, we talk about that. We talked about Star Wars earlier. The big deal about Star Wars was George Lucas wasn't quite sure about how well that was going to hit. So he convinced his friend, he didn't convince, but he talked to his good buddy, Steven Spielberg, who was also releasing a movie at that time, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep.
And they did a percentage swap. They said, hey, I believe in you so much. Take 1% of my movie. I'll take 1% of your movie.
What?
They did. And you know who made out like a bandit? Steven Spielberg, because he negotiated for the rights to all the merchandise from Star Wars, which defined the whole movie toy industry.
Yeah, that was massive. I don't know how much money he made off of the action figures, but
1% of all the merchandising and everything. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's massive. All right, we gotta land this plane here. Are there any last?
As long as we don't land them on any buildings.
People, say it again.
As long as we don't land the plane on any buildings.
Yeah. What if the World Trade Center had not gone down? What if we would have prevented that? Would there have been something else that may have taken its place?
I actually had a really interesting conversation about that. So I apparently have been to Canada at one point with my dad, who does not have an actual passport because he's never applied for one. But back then, you did not need a passport to go to Canada.
Yeah.
Pre 9/11.
Yeah.
Now you can't.
I remember that.
Yeah. So that's one thing for sure. It's like, we've got stricter security. TSA is actually like a scary thing now.
Yep.
Because I think back in those days, you could bring anything you want on an airplane.
Yeah, you could. Knives. I don't know about
A whole like 3-course meal. A jug of water.
I'm trying to wonder, did we have to go through a metal detector back then? I don't remember.
I think it was like a metal detector. Like it was just like the general, like the type of metal detector you go through at like the courthouse. Nothing like, not like a full body scan.
Did you say whorehouse or courthouse?
Courthouse.
What?
Courthouse.
I couldn't understand you. Vince been to a whorehouse. What? What kind of show is this, people? Wow, you're getting all nostalgic on
Oh
me.
boy.
All right, we gotta get out of here.
All right, friends.
Our memory card's almost done.
Thank you for joining us on another unhinged episode of Nostalgia Street Behind the Scenes.
But come on, let's do it right, man. You gotta try that one more time.
This is going to be uncut anyway. But
Yeah, exactly.
well, friends, thank you again for your viewership, your listenership, whatever you want to call yourself, to another episode of Nostalgia Street Unhinged. We will have our regular programming with our wonderful guest next week.
We've got John Meyer. We've got Brian Stroh. We have potentially Mike Lemmer, Steve Horan. So
we're calling you out on this episode so you actually show up. So if you don't show up, you're going to make us very sad and our viewers very sad.
Yeah. So let's keep this going. We'll see you next time on Nostalgia Street.
Make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on iTunes, please take a moment and leave us a rating and review.
Head on over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. You'll get access to engaging visuals that complement our podcast content.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to having you with us on our next episode. So until next time, listeners, stay curious, stay engaged,
Never stop walking down Nostalgia Street.